Welcome to Super Movie Brothers. Let's start the show.
This is a podcast on the Podfix Network. You can check out more shows like it at podfixnetwork.com.
Welcome to Super Movie Brothers, episode 69. I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Dave.
I'm your host, Super Movie Brother Jay. Episode 69.
Episode 69. Still flubbing your intro. So, last week we had some technical difficulties. We talked about it on episode 68, the short episode. We're back with a full episode. So, Jay, what the fuck were you up to this week?
Same old, little golf. We had a hell of a Halloween day on Saturday, didn't we?
That's true, yeah. Me and Jay together, along with my wife and a couple of other friends, we went to Broken Goblet for a Halloween celebration for costume contest and Kinky Quizzo.
Yes.
And you were, and everyone who follows us on Twitter has already seen the movie poster for Joe Dirt 3 coming up short.
Yes.
Starring Jay Short.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people, saying
Harvey
Joe
Weinstein
Dirt.
when he gets out of his European sex rehab. Yeah. It's going to be about the only movie that he's fit to produce.
I'll consider it.
He might even have a go at you.
He probably would. He's going to come out of that rehab and a whole new changed man.
Why rehab? Why not jail? That's what I don't understand. I guess no one's pressed charges
what about
yet.
Kevin Spacey?
I haven't heard anything about Kevin Spacey.
Oh, geez. Well, this just broke today.
Oh, okay.
This former kid back in the 80s did
this guy.
He's a man now, but he was 14 years old at the time, and apparently Kevin Spacey made a pass at him, and Kevin just made this, out of nowhere, massive response saying that he doesn't remember it, he's very sorry about it, and that he pretty much came out as a gay man at the same time, almost like making it sound like he was trying to make an excuse for it, like he's been hiding his homosexuality or bisexual nature throughout all these years. And it was very confusing, and a lot of people are giving him a lot of shit. And I just heard that they're canceling House of Cards because of it after the next season.
Why? Because he's gay, or because he made a pass at a 14-year-old boy?
The 14-year-old boy.
Okay, fair enough.
And that's what everyone's upset about. It's like it almost like it was like an ass backwards way of trying to make an excuse for the fact that he made a pass at a 14-year-old boy. It's like, well, just because you're gay doesn't mean you can start hitting on boys and children.
No, that's Jay's job. Pedophile. It's a fucked up thing. There's so much. Hollywood's a fucked up place.
It is, and it's the underbelly is starting to come to light, and it was only a matter of time.
Well, no, this part of the underbelly is starting to come to light. There's plenty of other things.
Of course.
And if you think it's new, it's not. Go back to. But
this is one of the more salacious stories that
go back to stories from old Hollywood and stuff like that.
Of course,
you talk about forced marriages and forced abortions and all types of different things, because for some of the starlets, they needed to be seen as wholesome, and if they got pregnant, the studio would find them a husband. If they were gay, they would find them a wife. They would do things to portray the stars they had under contract in the light that they wanted them to be portrayed as to not, garner any backlash from the public. So Hollywood's been a dirty town forever.
Sure. Especially the big studios. I mean, they've lost a lot of power over the years, but that during that time, those actors were hired and had to do everything as a slave almost of sorts to these studios for years. Yep. They had to do whatever that studio wanted them to do.
Yeah, I don't think there was a Screen Actors Guild at that time.
I don't think so.
Well, anyway, we're far off point here.
But no, this Halloween party that we had at the Broken Goblet was a lot of fun.
That's what we were
talking about. So we actually came tied for second and third place, and Dave actually made it up on stage, and
I did.
And he wielded his bat.
I did. I had my So I was dressed as Negan from The Walking Dead, as people on Twitter may have seen. It's my second costume this year because me and Lauren were already previously Hawkeye and Hawkeye, Clint Barton and Kate Bishop at a previous party. However, we did not think it pertinent or proper to walk into an establishment of drinking carrying legit deadly weapons because my bow is real and Lauren's bow is real and the arrows we have for them are real. Yeah. So there's just no place for that in a bar
or in your hands, Storm.
Not while you're drinking. It's just not smart. So we decided to go with something different. I had just about everything I needed in the house to be Negan, with the exception of the bat, which me and Lauren made. She bought a bat.
It was beautiful, yeah.
She bought a bat from the Halloween prop store, and then it didn't look right. It looked like crap, so I had to take silver marker, do the barbed wire up again, add some acrylic paint for blood and stuff like that. It looked good. Yeah, it did look good. I'll admit. That looked good. I don't know about me looking good, but the bat looked
you
good.
did. You looked really good.
The bat looked good.
Pretty spot on.
So the question we ended up coming in third with was, what percentage of couples in the United States practice anal sex
Was that the second one or the first one? Because you guys tied on the first.
That was the second one.
Okay.
So the other guy said something 14%. That's what he said. He said 14%, which is a weird number. But so it's kinky quiz though. So I'm in the mindset that the answer is actually going to be much higher than what you would think. So I said 30%, which was completely wrong. The answer was 7%.
Yeah.
7% of committed couples.
I think my guess would have been maybe like 10 or 12.
Yeah, 10 would have won, but in the end, 14 was closest. Not closest without going over. Not Bob Barker rules, just closest.
Because the key term for me was on a regular basis, and I'm like, there's not many people having regular anal sex.
But in the end, it turned out it didn't matter because you didn't win money. All you won was, and it was the same thing.
I think our bag was better than the second place bag. To be honest,
that's what I was telling everybody else. I was like, so what the first place people got was a porn star blow up doll, which it's terrible looking. Like those things are awful. Like I don't think anyone's ever like saw one of those and not used it as a gag
with a butt plug.
Yeah. And then there was also various vibrators and dildos and stuff in it, along with a free movie pass. Then second place was a vibrator, a pussy licker, which is, I guess, the same thing as like a pocket pussy, but for women. And you squeeze it and the tongue pops out and you're supposed to lube it up and then you lick yourself with it. I don't know. I don't think women use that.
No.
I think they're happy with just personal massagers, vibrators, and dildos. I don't think you need to get too fancy.
A little too fancy.
That's what the second place was. And then ours was 2 vibrators.
Infrared
vibrator.
You got to be specific about that.
And then
a cock clamp.
Which we threw out. Me and Lauren.
I had a feeling everybody was like looking around the table like, so what are we supposed to do with these things?
Here's the thing. If you go with a bunch of friends to Kinky Quizzo, be real comfortable with the friends you're with because, when the prizes came out to be given, everyone's looking at it like, well, Jay is a single man by himself. So we made sure that we gave him the hotmovies.com pass that we won. Mm-hmm. So Jay can enjoy 3 free movies.
Which I'm trying to give out to somebody, but I can't figure out who. I actually tried to remember to give it to Christina.
Just try to give it to some kid.
And give it to one of her favorite drunks.
Did you try to give it to some kid? You're just like,
I should have.
No, you shouldn't. That's what I'm saying. That's a form of pedophilia.
If he's over 18 years old, one of my kids, I would. If he's going home for the weekend, I'm like, look, buddy, have fun this weekend.
He's not going to see his parents at all. And then the 2 vibrators nobody wanted. So me and Lauren wound up with those. They will stay boxed and in a drawer because I don't think Lauren
uses them. It could be a good gag gift one day, you know?
And then I think that, the cock cage got thrown out immediately.
Yeah, nobody wants that.
It just looked terrible. So picture a spiky...
plastic thing?
Yeah, a spiky vinyl thing that goes around your member. And me and Lauren were like, does that get inserted? Because that sounds awful if it does. And I was like, I have no clue what this is for. And the other table...
I think it's almost like one of those like hair clamp things. Like it's one of those things that opens up and then it just shuts right on top around your dick. Oh,
it got thrown in the trash, package
good,
and all.
Good.
So...
Yeah.
But Kiki Quizzo was a lot of fun. The first round I thought which is the round, if we doubled on that round, we would have been in first place.
Should have, and that was the horror movie round.
That was the horror movie round. That was horror movie sex scenes, but we were not confident on
we had 7 questions
seduction
out of 10
of the
correct.
seduction of the vampire with Alyssa Milano. There were some other ones we weren't 100% confident
couple
on.
of obscure ones.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. And, I Ubered myself down to another party, and that was a lot of fun. My friend's annual Halloween party, and it was good to see old friends of mine. And yeah, that was a lot of fun. And, other than that, we're here, buddy.
Yeah. So, Jay, now that we know what we've been up to, what have you been watching, man? Other than Stranger Things, which will be the thing we review in our final segment tonight.
Yeah, so I caught the Meyerowitz stories. It's Meyerowitz Stories, New and Selected, to be exact. That's currently on Netflix, and it's the latest Noah Baumbach piece of work that I usually
piece of work,
and it is a piece of work because
this piece of work over here.
it's
It's the best way to describe the movie.
I usually enjoy.
I hear people are saying Jigsaw is a piece of work.
I hear that too. I usually enjoy his films, and I like the cast. I like the kind of premise, the scene. I feel like I haven't seen a movie of his in a while, and I was interested to see a Netflix, movie of his. And it's a letdown. Everybody was fine in the movie, acting wise, for the most part.
They were fine,
but it was just it was just so self aware. And the movie was very long.
It's Ben Stiller, Adam Sandler, and Dustin Hoffman.
Yes, that's the main 3 leads.
So the Fockers are back.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's it's very long and it's so self indulgent, and it was really a big slog to get through for me. I mean, it was very kind of predictable. It was not breaking any new ground. It was just very what you would expect. A Noah Baumbach
every single Adam Sandler film that has come to Netflix has been terrible.
Yeah, this is probably the best one.
I'm really thinking about
tries.
shopping Joe Dirt 3 coming up short, starring Jay Short, to Netflix.
Let's do it. He tried. He did all right. He was okay in the movie. The only Adam Sandler moments that come out is in the very beginning when he's trying to park a car and he starts yelling at another car, for beeping their horn at him. That's it.
Okay.
But this is not worth your time unless you're like a fan of these guys or Noah Baumbach maybe. But
neither. None.
Don't even bother. None
of the
for
above.
Me, it was just a C movie. Nothing.
I mean, I like Ben Stiller. I don't have nothing against him, but I don't like Adam Sandler.
It was nothing original whatsoever.
Noah
Baumbach
does nothing for me. So
yeah.
We can talk about something that was cut from our last episode because of the technical snafu, but we both watched Mindhunter. We won't go into it too deeply, but the David Fincher led show, first 2 episodes directed by him, last 2 episodes directed by him. Mm-hmm. It was good. I enjoyed it.
It's very good.
A lot. It was very much in Fincher's style. However, it wasn't so much the thriller that you would expect from him. It's very much more like the behind the scenes. Like I saw it as like, how like Newsroom is like the behind the scenes of like a news.
Yeah. This
is the behind the scenes of investigation.
Yeah.
Like more so than like procedural dramas and stuff like that. This was like, this is how modern investigation was born. It's how the textbook on criminal profiling was made.
An easy thing just to say, if you enjoyed Fincher's movie Zodiac, you will love this show. I think it's pretty much a certainty. But, Jonathan Groff had a great, subtle, very interesting character arc that was very subtle and progressed throughout the season. And Holt McCallum, he was who I gravitated towards. I gravitated to him too, and he was just so well casted for this. And in the same vein as like something like True Detective, they have offsetting personalities, and it works. It works for the character dynamic in them, and even for that time period. Yeah, I just enjoyed it. I think it's worth the watch. I'm not going to give it a score or anything like that. Some people are mixed on it. Some people find it too boring. For me, this type of stuff, it's not boring. This is what I went to school for. I read books on this type of stuff for fun, and it's just really.
I just really just enjoyed the knowledge that they share in it.
Yeah.
I think it's fucking fascinating. So if you're the type of person that likes those type of investigation thrillers and you're interested in criminal profiling, this show is about where it was born. So
Absolutely.
definitely give it a shot. And other than that, me and Jay obviously both watched Stranger Things.
2.
Stranger Things 2, which we will be doing our a review of in the last segment of the show, as I said before. And then next week we will have our review for Thor Ragnarok. So let's get in the news. And now it's time for the news. So Jay, did you know Adam Driver did an interview about Star Wars?
I did not.
And supposedly he kind of possibly gave a spoiler out for Rey's identity. So if you want to remain spoiler free on this Adam Driver comment, you want to go into Last Jedi not knowing anything, period. Trust me, this is a very minor spoiler, but...
And it's vague, you know?
Yeah.
It's a tease more than anything, I guess.
Skip ahead 2 minutes.
Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning.
So in the interview, he says, you have also the hidden identity of this princess who's hiding, who she really is, so she can survive, and Kylo Ren and her hiding behind these artifices. So the word in there that is questioning, that people are questioning, is the word princess. That would mean that if she's a princess, she is obviously from a royal family, but we know that she's not from the Solo royal family. So what royal family could she be from?
I don't know.
So there's a lot of speculation that her lightsaber style is the same as that of Emperor Palpatine's. And if she was Emperor Palpatine's daughter, that would make her, or possibly clone, that would make her a princess. And some people are making parallels now to the Bolsheviks, to the Russian, to the Russian uprising, and Anastasia, the lost princess, and all this type of stuff. I am not putting too much stock in this. He very well could have said princess as a verb to describe her and not so much a noun and a title. So I don't put too much stock in this.
Okay.
But it's a thing that was said, and it's about Star Wars, so we're covering it because I love Star Wars, and people go ape shit over Star Wars, blah blah blah. But honestly, I wouldn't take too much from that.
Yeah, I got some disappointing news, Dave.
What's that?
Blade Runner 2049's bombing all over the world.
Yeah, that was my next. That was my
the
next.
The last hope was China, and it made like $7 million, and Geostorm beat it by like 30 million or something like that.
Yeah, it opened to $2.4 million on Friday in China, and $7 to $8 million over the whole weekend, and it's only projected to make $15 to $20 million total in the country. Right now, it has made $150 million. It had a $150 million budget, but that was before marketing.
They, I think, had to make at least 300 million worldwide just to even break even, probably. And they're probably not even going to make 250.
In North America alone, it only made $77 million.
Yeah, I don't think anybody foreseed this.
No.
It was going to be this low. I think I never thought it was going to be a massive success. It's not that kind of film, but I expected it to be a little bit more successful than it was.
And these days for film, if you're not making your box office back domestically, it's tough to get a sequel greenlit. I mean, that's just
unless you're Pacific Rim.
But look how long it took Pacific Rim to get a sequel greenlit. So
and also they made that movie specifically for the foreign audience.
Over in DC film news, Shazam, the movie about Captain Marvel, has its lead actor Zachary Levi has been cast as Shazam.
Controversial.
He's been in the MCU too. He was one of Thor's friends in the MCU.
I like him as an actor. I like him as a guy. I think it'll be interesting. He's already commented that he's going to be in the gym forever, and so he's going to work out, take it serious, and bulk up, I guess. And he's a nerd. That's the coolest thing about it. Like, he's just a through and through nerd. Like, he does a lot of nerd related things, hosts different parties and functions and events, and he's a tall, good looking guy. And I think it'll be interesting to see his take on this. I think a lot of people say that he doesn't fit the look of Shazam, perhaps, but I mean, it is what it is. I mean,
he is a taller guy. He is quite broad, but he's not like built. But we've seen transformations be made before.
Look at Chris Pratt. He's a perfect example, right? I mean,
he
was never a fit guy until he got.
He was. He used to be, and then he
was he.
Yeah, and then he got big.
I thought he was just skinny.
And then he lost.
Whatever.
Then he lost weight for Zero Dark 30, and then he got really into shape for Star-Lord. Jay, you got any other news stories?
Well, I don't know how you're going to take this one, but Lethal Weapon.
I'm getting the feeling I'm too old for this shit.
Reportedly.
It was a terrible pun.
Donner, Glover, and Gibson are interested in coming back.
Yeah, Dick Donner back to direct.
I don't know how that's going to work.
He was the director of Lethal Weapon 4, which is the worst Lethal Weapon, barely even watchable. It's just an awful Lethal Weapon. Lethal Weapon 3 is where it really started to fall off. Obviously there's renewed interest in Lethal Weapon with the Lethal Weapon TV show being out, Shane Black with the Nice Guys and stuff like that. People do want to see characters like this. They do want buddy cop films again. They do want action films like this again. I'm just not sure why go back to that well. Why go to that well and not start a new well? I mean, I understand.
They tried, I guess, with Nice Guys.
Right, but I understand that didn't do well enough to garner a sequel. So do another one, do a better one. And how are you doing Lethal Weapon 5, but you're not bringing Shane Black back?
Yeah,
he's got time. After Predators, after The Predator, he has time.
You're right. And I feel like he might want to, but at the same time, he might just feel a little jaded because he did just do The Nice Guys, and it didn't work. So maybe he feels like he already tapped into that well recently, and it didn't work, so he doesn't want to revisit it again. So I don't know.
Dump trucks full of money change minds.
That's true. I guess it's one of those things where we'll see.
In another DC news, Justice League is tracking to open less than BVS and Suicide Squad, but it is tracking to open ahead of Wonder Woman.
Right.
So they're looking at it to open up at $110 to $120 million domestically, putting it behind BVS, which made $166 million domestically, and Suicide Squad, which made $133 million domestically. But Wonder Woman only grossed $103 million domestically, despite it being the best DC film so far.
Here's my major concern. The
best critically received DC film so far. The reason I had to say it that way is because the second those words came out of my mouth, I heard Nick from Epic Film Guys all the way from Endicott, New York go, "Ah!" because he still thinks Man of Steel and BVS are the best DC films of all time.
The movie review embargo lifts the day before the release. Now, that could get bumped up and changed, but I really don't think it will. We've seen the marketing material. It's nothing all that mind-blowing. So, there's a chance that this might be a stinker. I don't know. We don't know until we see the film. So they might be trying to hype up the marketing machine and not have the critics be involved with the marketing whatsoever to support this film leading up to it, and just hope and bank on
it's one of two
word
things.
Of mouth and a big weekend.
I mean, it could be that. It could be that early reviews hurt BVS poorly in Warner Brothers' minds, which may 100% be true. A lot of people point to that as the reason that it did so poorly. It was the early critical reviews. Although we know that most of the time, if you're not allowing early critical reviews of a film, it doesn't got the chops.
Yeah.
I mean, Thor let their critics review it last week.
A couple weeks ago.
3 weeks before its release. We know that War for the Planet of the Apes let them do it. We know that Blade Runner let them do it. And that, even though it had great critical buzz, it still bombed at the box office. So look, if the majority of people listen to critics, BVS wouldn't have made $166 million domestically. Mm-hmm. It just wouldn't have. But the fact is, people don't really listen to critics all that much. And I don't know whether it's Warner Brothers cutting them out and just saying, you know what, fuck you. Or whether it's our movie stinks. And the fact is, I'm still, as I always say, reserving my judgment until November 17th when I'm in the theater.
Sure, absolutely. And it's a red flag. I'll just say that. It's a red flag, but it does not mean anything. It really does not. So, other than that, I have one of my favorite news items that we have to talk about, which I'm excited for, is Quentin Tarantino has a finished script that he wrote about Charles Manson. And he is now, since he left the Weinstein Company, because they produced or distributed all of his films.
Most of them, yeah.
Mostly all of his films. And since he cut ties with them.
And most of Troublemaker studio films, which are also,
right.
Robert Rodriguez films.
Yeah, yeah.
So a lot of,
So he's looking for a new home. And so he's actually being very secretive because of his latest film, The Hateful Eight script leak. It's a little on edge.
Well, that script leaked like 5 or 6 years before Hateful Eight came out.
Right.
He actually put Hateful Eight on the back burner and made some script changes,
but
based on that, which
really
some people have said hurt the film. The fact that it was released early,
That's
and
possible.
he made script changes after its leak just so that it wouldn't be as similar to the leaked script that was out there. I enjoyed The Hateful Eight. It was nowhere near any of his best films, but
Sure.
I really enjoyed it.
No, it's enjoyable. So he's actually having not just script readers, but like studio heads, the guys, the power, decision makers of top tier studios, go to his agent's office to read the script, talk amongst themselves
under lock and key.
And if they enjoyed the script, this is his terms. And then they can.
Is this what you were saying earlier? Where it's like Entourage, where Ari made him read the script in front of him.
M. Night Shyamalan goes to Ari Gold's office and forces him to read the script right there in the office, and he was sitting there waiting for him to finish it. and every single page has like Ari Gold stamped on it. So like every page leaks, if it ever leaks, it
says
knows
Ari
it's from Ari
right.
Gold, whatever. So. It exists out there in Hollywood, but I just find it really encouraging that he's really confident in this script. He's really trying to find the right home to distribute this film and make it the way he wants to make it. So kudos on him. That's great.
Back over to DC again. God, it's the third DC story. Jay, have you ever seen The Raid?
I don't think so.
Awesome flick.
I heard it is really good.
So
I heard Raid 2 was good too.
Yep, they both were. So the filmmaker of that, Gareth Evans, may be on a short list of people to direct this standalone Deathstroke film, which would star Joe Manganiello.
I'm so happy for him.
Big Dick Ritchie. And I'm actually kind of excited about that because it means that it's going to be a smaller story. Because that's what Gareth Evans, The Raid is as simple. When I talk about Dread 3D, get from floor 1 to floor whatever and kill all the bad guys along the way. I think that that type of small film sensibility lends really well to these type of comic book characters that don't have big storylines, big story arcs, but have a lot to put on screen, like Deathstroke, like Deadpool, like the Punisher, guys like that. I think the smaller stories and smaller budgets are tailor-made for them. So I'm really excited about that. It's just right now, he's just on a short list. He's pitched an idea to Warner Brothers, and no one knows whether that's what they're going to go with or not. But he is in talks, and he has pitched a script.
Yeah. So Venom is officially kicking off its production.
Yeah, and we got a set. We got a set photo.
We did have a nice little set video or set photo. Excuse me. And they announced that Tom Hardy's performance is going to be performance capture technology as Venom. So I'll. War of the Planet of the Apes, stuff like that. It's going to be performance capture, not motion capture.
All right, Jay. One more final story from me. James Mangold is currently writing the script for the X-23 spin-off movie.
Yeah, that was the final thing I wanted to talk about too. And
it was this. I feel like Logan left you with that. They basically left you with that. This is the only place that they can go in the Logan universe from here, and it makes sense because in the comics, X-23 took over for Wolverine after his death, so it makes sense based on what they have done in the comics. It makes sense based on the story that they've already told.
Sure.
I hope they age her up a little bit. teenage.
The girl will be growing. I mean, she's a young girl, and girls grow faster than boys do at that age.
If he's scripting it now, it's 3 to 4 years out, you would say? Probably.
Perhaps.
Yeah, I think it's about 3 to 4 years out. Plenty of time for the X-Men universe to implode again. Plenty of time for any number of things to go wrong. But I think it's pretty exciting. I would like to see a story continue in that Logan universe.
And I think the actress can hold her own for a film because she did a fantastic job.
We'll see what she does in the interim.
And you have a lot of room to work with supporting players.
You also don't need that same girl to come back. You could tell this story at any time, and you could have someone else play that girl if she's older. So
that's true.
But I just think it's very interesting. So far, the James Mangold take on Wolverine has been the best takes in the series. And Logan was absolutely, I'm not going to say masterful, but it was extremely well done. Yes. And it was the most true portrayal of the character that I can think of on screen based on what you see in the comics.
It was. Yep.
Very excited for that. All right, so that's going to do it for our news. If you want to make any comments to us on any of the news stories that we covered or disagree with any of our opinions on any of the news stories, reach out to us on Twitter at SuperMoviePod.
And hate mail to JD Short 009
That's
at
right.
Twitter.
Well, I mean, there's no hate mail for you this time. I don't think you said anything that was too bad. I mean, nothing as
I know, I'm just kidding.
Nothing as devious or incriminating as Warm Bodies as your #1 zombie film. That's for fucking sure. So the next thing we're going to be talking about is we are going to get into Jay's Indie Corner. Jay is going to your local coffee shop. He's going to get himself a mocha frappa latte. He is going to pour himself a little bit of bourbon in that. He's going to get a little bit of a buzz on as he walks over to hit on your girlfriend. So stay tuned. Welcome back to Jay's Indie Corner. He just finished brushing his mustache off, and he's got a clean place for your lady to sit. And he is going to bring you his indie film for this week.
Mm-hmm. Take your earbuds out and take a listen.
Why would they take them out? If they take them out, they can't listen, Jay. By definition of what earbuds do.
No, they want to listen to me. Explain it. Talk about it.
All right, anyway.
I'm kidding.
It makes none of what you said makes sense. Doesn't make any sense.
Actually, that did not. Okay.
Nope. Thinking about it now, aren't you?
Well, your dog's licking my toes, so it's bothering me right now. And I'm like,
Jay is getting slightly turned on by my dog licking his toes.
It's distracting me right now, so I'm like...
He must have spilled beer on your toes. That's the only reason to be looking at him. He's not no Quentin Tarantino. He doesn't have a foot fetish.
So, my indie film for this week is Bluejay.
All right, so I do have a fake synopsis, but I want to admit to everybody that when Jay comes out with a indie film that is just one word, it is tough for me to come up with a fake synopsis. So when you come out with something like Bluejay, it's tough without, saying that I'm going to do some major league-esque movie about the Toronto Blue Jays, and that's just derivative. I mean, I don't want to do something exactly. So I had to do a little bit of research. I actually had to take some time to think about it. So I looked up some interesting facts on Blue Jays. So the bird's name derives from its noisy, garish nature. So I don't know how Blue Jay. I guess Jay is just garish by nature. So therefore, Jay, my co-host, is noisy and garish, which is the exact opposite of what he really is. And then I also found out that in old African-American folklore in the southern United States, a blue jay was held to be a servant of the devil and was not encountered on Friday as he was fetching sticks down in hell. So, coupled with that information, I was like, I could tailor a story about this.
Yeah.
So this is a story of a young black gentleman who works for a criminal organization only on Fridays. So the movie would follow him Monday through Sunday, and in his normal, ordinary, mundane life And then on Fridays, we follow him in his criminal activities until one day the criminal activities spill over into the rest of his life. And he has to spend the rest of the week on the run. And he has to take down the kingpin or the devil that he works for in order to save his friends and his family. I know it sounds weird. It's not funny. I mean, I understand that, but I really wasn't given funny to work with.
But it's good suspense going on.
But it's called Bluejay because he is a loud and garish type character.
Sure.
Like, he has his job.
So that personality gets him in trouble. And gets him in trouble as well.
That's right.
So it goes back and forth.
That's right.
So, two sides of the coin.
But it's funny because a bluejay is, I was thinking that because...
Well, they are aggressive in nature, but also their aggressiveness is also to serve and protect other birds.
Right. So a bluejay is loud because it actually serves as a beacon for warning other birds when predators are around. They will chase hawks and they will chase eagles away from their nest and just keeping them away from other birds' nests just by nature. And then they also scream and make a lot of noise when predators are around. So that is what the character is doing in this film. So I was like,
I like it.
But also, because they warn when predators are around, I thought it would be fitting if his job on Fridays was to be a lookout, because he's the one that goes, hooty hoo! Yo, everybody, the popos are here.
And nobody takes him seriously until he gets himself in trouble. Yeah.
Wasn't that funny of one, but I mean, let's be honest, Jay didn't give me a lot to work with.
Stop it! But this movie is a gem that I'm talking about, and it's currently on Netflix. Mark Duplass wrote this little black and white gem starring himself and Sarah Paulson. Sarah Paulson is very hot right now, and she's a great actress. She doesn't have many.
She's on fire.
She's on great ass.
Harvey Firestein on fire.
She's really on fire.
But most people know her from American Horror Story.
What are we going to do, David?
And
she's on Harvey Firestein.
So this is a modern day story, and they are both from a small town in Colorado, and they just simply bump into each other 22 years later in that town after being high school sweethearts. And, the film takes a little bit of a long, awkward time getting kind of going. It does have a natural progression, how bumping into somebody like that after so long might have an awkward, you're just going to be a little awkward. You're going to be a little weird, especially when you guys have...
No, especially when it's written by Mark Duplass. It's usually the Duplass brothers who write it. It's usually both of them who write it together, but Mark always stars in them. And if you don't know who Mark Duplass is, he's currently in the HBO TV show Togetherness, and he has previously been in The League.
Yeah, no, he's done a lot of interesting properties.
He is.
Film, TV, documentaries. I'm not sure. Short films. He does a lot of different things.
He also has. Did you do a Indie Corner on Creep? On that's also was streaming on Netflix at one point. Yeah, that's the one where he becomes obsessed with the person. Yeah, don't worry about it. See Creep if you want to spend an hour and a half confused and bored and then get some weird awkward payoff at the end and then be like, what did I just watch? But safety not guaranteed. That's what put him on the map.
There you go. So, but once it gets going, it is a special treat. Well worth the time. It's simply a trip down a nostalgic memory lane for these two characters, and as an audience get to witness its complexities when they were together to how they are as people now, and just their chemistry still at the current state. And it definitely packs an emotional punch at the very end, and I definitely recommend
it. It sounds interesting, but knowing what I know about Duplass Brothers films, I'm probably gonna be pretty bored through 90% of it and find
it's kind of like in the vein of like the Before series. Like it's a 2-person dialogue.
That's tough.
Short film.
That's tough. I can only say
it's not as chatty as Before. but it's
I can only sit through so many conversations with women,
right.
with Helena Bonham Carter and Aaron Eckhart, which is well done. I mean, it's an entire movie that's filmed in split screen.
Oh, I know. Oh, you saw that movie? Yeah,
I own that movie.
Oh, you do? Yeah. Yeah. I didn't love that movie. Little J loved that movie a lot more than I did.
I know. He loved that I liked that movie, and I was like, no. I mean, I said I've seen the movie. I didn't say I liked it. I enjoyed it, but enjoying something and liking something are two. If I like something, I'll watch it again. If I enjoyed something, that means I enjoyed the time I had with it. But it's over, like a one night stand.
Right. I got you.
You know, like when I leave in the morning, and it's like, did you have a good time? It's like, I enjoyed myself. It's my code for I'm never calling you again.
That's really smart because most people, I think, just like Little J, takes it as you liked it.
No. If I say I enjoyed something, it means I enjoyed the time I had with it. If I liked it, it means I'll watch it again. If I loved it, it means it deserves a spot in my collection. The only reason I own Conversations with Women is because I worked at Blockbuster and we were destroying it, and it was a free movie, and I fucking took it.
That's
why.
Man.
But Bluejay, I'm probably never going to see Jay. I'm sorry. This is like the third indie film in a row that you've like recommended, and I just can't go with.
I feel like it's 95% of them.
No, I mean, some of them I've already seen. Number one, like Milk, I've already seen. But other ones, it's just I understand what they are, but it's like
I'm not a salesman.
I know. I need to be in the right frame of mind. Maybe if after talking last week, if I make you a list of horror movies and like 80s action film, like the films you haven't seen, if I made a list of films I think that you haven't seen and you need to see, if you make me a list of indie films that I haven't seen but need to see, we should do it.
We will. Actually, that's an
really
interesting segment.
Fun episode. So let's do this.
Okay.
Let's make this a promise.
Are we making an on-air deal?
We are making an on-air deal. On-air. I just became my dad for 2 seconds.
Me.
I said dear. like my dad always says an idea instead of ideal. So anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to stroll through the streaming services that each of us have.
Okay.
And we are going to find films that we love. We will make a list, and we will
really like,
and we will cross-reference them and movie collections and your DVD collection.
Sure.
And we will cross-reference them with each other. The ones that we haven't seen that we think the other person should see, we will do, and we will make an entire segment about it.
Yeah. Don't hold your breath, people. This will take a little bit of time.
This will take some time. I'm actually thinking this is going to be our. This will be a gift to each other. So let's shoot for Christmas time.
I like that.
Let's shoot for Christmas
Sounds
time. I'm curious. You're going to come up with a lot of stuff, and Lauren Lauren has to watch all these movies with me because that's how marriage works, Jay.
I'm not putting her in consideration. This is all for you, buddy.
It's going to be. You are probably going to hate 90% of the movies I put on there, and I'm probably going to hate 90% of the movies you put on. That's what's going to be real interesting.
It's going to be interesting. I don't know. I don't think I'm going to hate that. Well, we'll see. You never know. I don't know what you're going to give me, but
I say we start with the DVD collections, and then we extrapolate. And then when December comes, then we will go through the streaming service because we know that every month streaming service, what's on there changes. So we will, when the month comes, we will go through what's on the streaming service, pick a couple films from there. I know you have Amazon Prime, right?
Yeah, I have an Amazon, HBO, Showtime.
All right, so we'll go through all those, and
Netflix,
then we will come up with a list of, let's say, no more than 10 films. Let's not get crazy with it.
Well, let's just start with 5, and then we'll go from there. If we're getting to that point where we can go more, let's just we can do 10. But it's gonna be tough watching 10 movies. New movies.
All right, 5 films. I can complete that with my DVD collection in 5 minutes. I can go through my DVD collection and find 5 films that you haven't seen that you really love. That I love and I think you need to see.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Sounds good. This will be exciting.
So
that's it for Jay's Indie Corner, guys.
Coming up next, we got our beer segment and this week's drunk scene. So stay tuned. Welcome back to the beer segment. So this month, our theme is going to be stouts. Jay has deemed it so.
I have. I'm a fan of stouts, especially really good ones. And
we're getting into the winter months. That's when stouts are good.
Yeah, and I thought it was a good little pick,
Fair enough.
Something different.
But before we get there, Jay, we got to do our drunk scene. Mm-hmm. And it's actually, for this time, it's drunk scenes, because I feel
moments?
like drunk moments,
Yeah.
because there's one character in this movie who throughout it is drunk.
Yes.
And he has some of the best lines, and he
progressively gets sober.
right, he does. But he bookends just great scenes in the movie. Like scenes start and end with him, and
great
it's
zingers.
absolutely great. And the reason we're putting it on here is because World Series this week, it's coming to an end, so figured to do something baseball related and put it out there. So here it is.
Top of the sixth, and rookie sensation Ricky Vaughn on the pitch now. You can close the book on Kellner.
Thank God.
Vaughn, a juvenile delinquent in the offseason in his major league debut.
Gonna light your ass up, Pete.
Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed. Ball 4. Ball 8. Low, and Vaughn has walked the bases loaded on 12 straight pitches. Boy, how can these guys lay off pitches that close? So the Tribe drops its third straight on this trip, 6-1 to the Rangers. For the Indians, 1 run on, let's see, 1 hit. That's all we got. 1 goddamn hit.
You can't say goddamn on the air.
Don't worry, nobody's listening anyway. Post-game show is brought to you by Christ, I can't find it. The hell with it.
And the voice you are hearing is Harry Doyle, spared no expense. Harry Doyle is the announcer for the 1989 Cleveland Indians, and in the movie, obviously, Major League, which is one of my favorite sports movies of all time.
And even comedies almost, It's just a fantastic movie all around.
But he has so many we can only share so many of them like here. But if you haven't seen the movie, go see it. It's absolutely amazing.
It's a must.
Even the second one is worth a watch.
No, it is.
Don't watch the third one ever, but watch the second one.
The first 2 are both enjoyable.
Yeah, so Harry Doyle is played by Bob Uecker, and he actually was a real-life baseball announcer. He's got that voice.
And player.
And he was a player. He played in 6 seasons. He was with the Milwaukee Braves before they went to Atlanta, the St. Louis Cardinals, the Philadelphia Phillies, our fighting Phils, and the Atlanta Braves after they had moved from Milwaukee to Atlanta.
And he's still living. He's still kicking.
Yeah. And he actually had a good hitting average. He was batting over 200 for his lifetime average with 146 hits, 14 home runs, and 74 RBIs in 297 games.
Good for him.
Yeah, but he's not in the Baseball Hall of Fame, Jay. He is inducted into the Radio Hall of Fame in 2001 and was the 5-time Wisconsin Sportscaster of the Year award recipient.
All right.
So the motherfucker's got chops.
Yeah, he was probably just like an average, solid player, but really just had a knack with a great voice. And being a great commentator. And it shows in the movie.
Absolutely.
He kind of spoofs himself almost in a way.
And there was about a year ago, there was a petition for Bob Uecker to be the World Series announcer for last year's World Series.
Right. I remember that.
How fantastic would that have been? But just his line.
I think he did actually make an appearance.
He did. He came out.
Yeah,
he came out.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if he threw one of the first pitches for one of the games.
Yeah, I think he said something maybe. But
it was there. But he's just got such a great voice. But his lines are just absolutely, like in the first scene that we really get him in, it's the season opener, and he's like, "Boy, just listen to that crowd."
It's just like stray voices.
One hit.
It's like one hit.
One goddamn hit. You can't say goddamn on the radio. Nobody's listening.
Oh Oh my god.
Or there's a time where
or like he's like, or there's like a big hit and he's like, ah shit.
Oh, shit.
Ah shit.
And then his announcing buddy tries to like get in and like say something, and he cuts his mic out and he goes, "Less is more." Just keeps going. I would like to think that
He doesn't need a color commentator. No.
They don't call him the best color commentator guy in the game for nothing.
No, sir.
But I absolutely did. I love this film for so much more than just Harry Doyle parts. But I mean, it's
definitely.
It's one of my favorite sports.
Even
movies
his
of all
outfits,
time.
they're just fantastic. You know, he's just best. Every time he comes on screen, it's just enough. You know, it's like, great cutback to him. I loved it.
Yeah, he's one of the parts that makes 2 more watchable. Like if he didn't return for 2, then you wouldn't have wanted to watch that at all. So in keeping with the baseball theme, I am drinking the Lucille, which is a baseball bat. Mm-hmm. It is the baseball bat that is swung by Negan, the leader of the Saviors in The Walking Dead, both TV and comic books. And this is the Lucille Blackstrap Molasses Stout. It's 9.4% alcohol, and it is brewed by Terrapin Brewing Company. So they've done Walking Dead beers before. They did the Walking Dead Blood Orange IPA that I had last year, I think. I'm not too hot on that one. Okay. But this, I'm pretty fucking stoked on. And it's not because it's The Walking Dead. It's because it's a great fucking beer.
It is a really good beer, and I took a sip of it. It's, I know it's expensive, probably because it's so rare.
No, you overpaid for it.
You overpaid. Paid like $14 whatever.
$14 for it, and I found it for $6.99 last week when I drank it for our Walking Dead show that me and Lauren do together. But it was so good that I wanted to bring it on here and talk about it. And thank you for letting me do that.
No, this is definitely a beer I thought you'd enjoy, and I wanted to try myself. And I love stouts, so I'm happy that you actually enjoy one.
It is smooth. It has beautiful chocolate notes up front. Just really well toasted, but like it's not overpowering. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make you feel like you're drinking an ashtray or anything like that with its smoky notes and everything like that. And also,
it's interesting that you say those things because stay tuned.
But on top of that, like it's just silky fucking smooth, and it goes down real silky smooth. I really enjoy it. When I look for a stout, this is exactly what I look for. One of the things I don't like about stouts is when stouts have that big, heavy, like alcohol flavor to it, especially on the back end. And this doesn't have that. It balances itself really, really well. So I'm giving it a 4.5, Jay. It is fucking
fantastic.
Delicious. I love it. Okay,
so I have myself the Long Trail Brewing Company's Unearthed Stout. It is 7.9 alcohol by volume and 58 IBUs. This guy has a very strong kind of, toasted, smoky nose, and it has a very boldly roasted malt flavor that, as Dave was expressing before, unfortunately has that kind of smoky, kind of ashtray, earthy kind of taste to it. And it is not good.
It's too much.
It's way too much. It's not my kind of stout. It's just really dry and bitter in the end, and I don't care for it at all. And this one is a low grade for me. This is a 2 out of 5.
Wow.
Yeah.
If we're gonna play a game of.
It's a little unfortunate.
We're gonna play a game of which dick is bigger. I think it's mine. That beer is fucking awful.
Yeah.
Definitely would not want that ever again. But mine, very happy to have it again.
Absolutely.
Very happy to be drinking it again. So coming up next, me and Jay are going to be getting into our Stranger Things 2 review. So stay tuned. fucking love that intro music for this show.
To be honest, dude, I don't usually do this, but I
watch the intro.
I watch the intro credits every single episode.
Lauren said that. Lauren's like, why don't you skip the intro? And I was like, because honestly, the intro, it's good. Number one, the music's great.
Oh, it's so good.
And it's short enough that it's not like a full song. It's not a minute. It's literally about 15 seconds, and that's it. And it's
just a cool, the lettering, the black background with the red fluorescent kind of lighting pop, and it's just simplistic, but it's so cool, and it has that kind of feeling and energy that is a perfect sound to blend and set you up for the whole episode.
Yeah.
And I love it. I always have. I purposefully thought about that while we were watching, or while I was watching the season, and I'm like, I got to bring this up on the podcast.
Is that
I actually
the intro.
watched the intro every single episode because I love it so much. And
even Mindhunter, I did enjoy the music for that. I skipped it,
Right.
But
it wasn't the best, that's for sure.
for some things, like I don't mind watching the intro if I really enjoy it, and for this. Fuck yeah, I really enjoy it. So obviously, me and Jay are doing
like Dexter. I enjoyed Dexter's.
I did not.
No,
I got old.
I mean, after a while, it kind of got a little old. But like, I enjoyed it for a while.
I guess if you binge watch, I didn't binge watch. I actually just watched that week by week. So me and Jay are obviously getting into our Stranger Things 2 review. There's going to be minor spoilers throughout. Me and Jay are not going to spoil any type of major plot point up front. I will put up the spoiler warning when we get into specifics, and then especially in the Easter egg segment. We're running this like our normal review segment. However, we're just making it part of the regular episode because it's so fun.
Because why not? And we love Stranger Things, and so do you, and you should.
Yeah, I watched it. Me and Lauren watched it practically in a 24-hour period. That's for sure. So
I kind of did as well. This is probably the fastest binge watch
I expected you to not have it done by the time we were doing this recording.
I think it helped that it was only 9 episodes. But, I was off Friday and Saturday and had time and watched it in 2 days.
Yeah, me and Lauren watched 2 episodes on Friday night and then the other 7 all day Saturday. Like, we just binged it on Saturday before we went out with you, and before me and you recorded, what eventually became episode 68. It was a task, but it was an enjoyable task. It's like one of those things. It's like, I just felt I didn't care that I didn't move for almost 8 hours.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was one of those things where I knew I had a big Saturday night, and I was like, you know what, fuck it. I'm just going to stay on a Friday night and just watch Stranger Things, and I couldn't have been any happier. Just had some red wine, enjoyed myself. Loved it, and then I was just looking forward to the next day of just literally not doing anything but finishing that series up before we go out and have fun with Halloween.
And it's certainly a binge worthy show. However,
sure,
I do know other members of our Podfix family, talking to them on the live chat. There's several of them that don't like to do the binging. They prefer to spread it out, spread the love, spread the joy.
I don't have that self-control.
I don't either, especially because I generally, by next weekend, I'm going to have something else that I'm really into, something else that I'm really going to want to binge, something else that I'm really going to want to watch.
And there's always something to catch up with, right, or something,
Or I know I'm going to be too busy next weekend. And honestly, Stranger Things, it's like it came out at an exact right time for me. We didn't have Logan this weekend. We didn't have plans until late on Saturday. Like, it was just perfect. It was like we had nothing to do, and it rained all fucking weekend. It was like perfect.
I know.
It was like, you got nowhere else to go, motherfucker. Sit on the couch and watch some Stranger Things. You damn right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Stranger Things Season 2 sees the return of Lucas, Dustin, Mike, and Will, along with 11. Just 5 kids you love to follow. And that's one of the things that is still a driving force in this season, is the relationship that these 4 or 5 kids have together, and the adventure. And just like last season, this season was not a slow burn, but like it takes its time to build its story and to build its lore and to I mean, and in this, just like any other sequel, it expands the lore, it expands it
does,
and just like any other sequel, again, it goes bigger for sure, like 100% bigger.
It definitely does. The Upside Down is expanded upon, and it does not
expanding or expanding upon.
I'm trying.
Both.
I gotta watch my words now.
Yeah.
But they did a great job with it, and I think they kept it reeled in enough. They had the scientific hospital play a big part.
One of the things that I loved was I love to hate Paul Reiser. Like, I love to hate Paul Reiser. And
he actually, but you know what the great thing he
they
did?
certainly played on your expectations of his character.
Exactly.
Like 100%.
100%. He was in the gray the whole time.
You remember him as Paul Reiser from Aliens.
Sure.
That's what you remember from. I mean, you might remember him from Mad About You and that shit, but that's not what I remember him as from Aliens. I remember him as the corporate stooge from Aliens, and that's what I expected him to be. Not saying he isn't that, but I'm just saying they play with your expectations
all the way to
that.
the finish, even.
And Sean Astin surprised the fucking shit out of me, man. I honestly expect him to be a jokey character, and they certainly start you off with that type of portrayal.
Slightly they do, yeah.
And they start adding, like they do with everyone
Depth.
else, layers to everybody. And I will say this, Winona Ryder was one of the absolute worst parts of season 1. She was barely watchable. A lot of her scenes were really...
It was over the top.
Really terrible.
That way.
I think she, while not the strongest member of the cast this season, having her act in a similar way to how she acted in the first season makes you feel like that's more character trait than flaw in acting.
I never really thought it was a flaw per se in the season 1. I just thought that they had hit.
But also, she seemed less of a broken bird. You know what I mean? Like, she seemed so broken.
She was stronger from that. I think that's what it was. It was a year later, and she's stronger because of that
and
situation.
That's character progression, and that's one of the things I love about it. I did enjoy seeing that.
And she's a little neurotic still, but she does it more in a proactive way, and not in less a frantic crying way that she was before. So that was really exciting to see, because she and even Sean Astin and her, and other people will help try to figure out how to beat the monster.
And David Harbour is I think my favorite person in the cast. I think his Hopper is... He's
perfectly embodied the character.
Yeah, he really does. And he really he has a great... It's so great to see him be the badass tough guy, but then also be the softy that is, taking care of these kids. He really, it's really what gives him his strength is his love for the kids. And we know that
his honorable vulnerability, really.
And based on the first season, we know that his love for kids comes from the death of his daughter and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
We also know that that's where his relationship in season 1 with 11 comes from. So,
sure.
He definitely feels for them, and he sees himself as a broken man, and he sees himself as someone who has no hope. But these kids have hope. These kids are what deserve protecting. So
absolutely. And how about the teenagers? They have a storyline where I guess mostly you have Steve and Nancy as a couple, but kind of falling out. And Nancy wants to pursue justice for Barb, just find out what happened, get down to the nitty-gritty.
Which was a big thing last season, #Justice for Barb.
Absolutely.
Everyone cared about what was going on with Will Byers, but, Nancy died last season, and we saw her body, so we know she's dead.
Barb died, yeah.
And no one really seemed to care. So the Duffer Brothers and Netflix, it was obvious they had to address the death of Barb. They had to make it real. And honestly,
they did it in a perfect way.
You know why Barb died last season? Because no one else really did die. You needed to add weight to it.
Sure.
And if you don't have a character dying, then there's no weight. If she got lost in the Upside Down and got pulled out just like Will did and was rescued, then there is no danger and there's no weight to the danger that the Upside Down presents. And there is a character this season that is very much cannon fodder, who they make you love, who doesn't make it in that exact same way, except they don't die in the Upside Down. They die in the present.
Yeah. So Nancy and Jonathan, they go out and they try to uncover the real truth and find out, what's going on with the hospital, with the scientific hospital, and try and unveil the truth behind it and get answers. And then you have Steve, kind of become a weird version of like a babysitter of sorts, like a brother figure for these young boys, especially Dustin.
But how great, going back to Nancy and John Byers' story, how great was Brett Gelman as Murray Ballman as the reporter? How fucking great!
Absolutely perfect.
He was, oh my God, I absolutely loved, he was cheesing it up every scene, but it didn't feel cheesy.
It felt perfect for the character.
It did. He felt perfect for that. He reminded me a lot of,
because somebody with
Robert Downey Jr.'s character in Zodiac. He reminded me a lot of that. He was very charismatic.
But anybody who does that would have that kind of neurosis. They would have that character trait. And it felt very tangible and realistic, especially in the 80s. It was very realistic, I thought.
And I loved the way that the first time that Nancy
and the way he talks to them,
right,
was they had great verbal exchanges. It was fantastic.
And the way that like Nancy and Jonathan come and they look at his timeline board and they look at everything. He is the one who's investigating Barb's death. He was hired by Barb's family to investigate it. He's a former reporter for the Sun-Times, Chicago Sun-Times, and they come in and they just shattered his whole theory to fucking hell.
I think he kind of loved it.
And he was just like, fuck it. He loved it because he was getting the answers he was seeking, but he also loved it because he saw tenacity in Nancy that he doesn't see in normal people. But he also saw something in Jonathan that isn't seen in normal people. And I really enjoyed that. I liked that moment of them in his lair where
I did too.
They were, cheesing it up a little bit, but they were also, really delving into what made both of those characters tick, Jonathan and Nancy.
Absolutely. And so we have two new young characters come into play, played by Billy and Max.
Mad Max.
Which is this fiery little
which is the obvious
girl.
reference that, when I get into Easter eggs and references later, Mad Max is the obvious reference that I don't need to point out. 1982's Road Warrior, Mad Max 2. She is a girl that is on par with our 4 stars, our 4 young guys.
Absolutely.
Lucas, Dustin, Mike, and Will. She is on par with them. Yep. And it's all about her joining the party.
And now each character, feels about it, as far as her as a person, her being included with the group.
Without getting too into it, there is a love triangle. I won't say which ones of the 4 boys fall in love with her, but
there is one.
There is a love triangle, and it's cute, and it's
very
also
honest.
But it's also how I remember, being in 8th grade, and me and my friends liked the same girl, and it's like, you're going to stay away, right? Yeah, I'm going to stay away from her. And it's like, you're going to stay away? Yeah, I'll stay away from her.
But of course, that only lasts for so long.
Yeah, but of course, that allegiance and that type of camaraderie only goes so far, especially when you're going through puberty, especially when you're 4 kids who this is really your first interaction with members of the opposite sex, unless you're Mike, who had interactions with 11 last season. So
yeah, exactly. And Mike still is still heartbroken about
Can
11.
I be honest? Mike was the weakest character this season.
He was.
I really didn't. It's not that I didn't buy Mike. I did buy everything that Mike was going through.
Absolutely right. Dude.
I just felt like they didn't give Mike enough to do.
No,
and
he didn't. And it had nothing to do with the character or the actor. It was just the way it was written.
It just
had
in,
nothing to do.
He just came in the last episode and he became Mike again. But throughout the series, he wasn't the Mike that we had last season.
No.
There was no drive in him, and there's a reason for that. And we'll talk about it when we get into spoilers in a few minutes. But
in a weird way, it's kind of surprising because he was just on the hit movie It.
And he was very charismatic, very lovable, very likable in that. And he was that same way last season in Stranger Things. But like I said, there's a reason for it, and we'll get to it.
It's true. It is true.
But yeah, I really enjoyed it. And then obviously we know from the trailers that 11 is coming back. We can't get into 11's story too much because 11's story is so tied in to the rest of Stranger Things that if we talk about 11 too much, we wind up giving away too much. But really what it comes down to is you're back with the same characters, you're back with the same showrunners, and you're back with a story that is on par with the first season. I'm not saying it's better, but it's on par with the first season, and it does have.
I would
greater
say
stakes.
that I think I enjoyed watching the second season more than the first season.
See, I enjoyed.
For some reason, it hit me a little bit sweeter than the first.
I love both seasons. Don't get me wrong,
and I do. I love the first one as well.
But gun to my head, I go with season 1. But that's only gone.
It's been a while since I saw season 1, so maybe I would revisit it.
I rewatched it just
right before. Oh, see,
about 2 weeks ago.
Okay,
but I go with season 1. I feel like the dynamic between the four kids, well, technically the 3 kids. I think that the dynamic between the 3 kids, Lucas, Dustin, and Mike, is great.
And I think we have to give a shout out to Noah Schnapp, who played Will. He had a lot more screen presence in season 2, and I thought he did a great job acting wise, conveying a whole different array of emotions.
Yeah.
That is hard to do for a young kid, and make it really believable, because this kid is a dopey looking kid and a scrawny little kid with a horrible haircut, and for him to hit certain kind of emotions in certain kind of ways, he did a good job. I just wanted to give him a shout out.
So Jay, let's give it a score real quick before we jump into our spoiler segment and stuff like that. So what would be your score for Stranger Things season 2?
A+.
A+. All right. It's an A+ for me too. Which would mean I give them both A+. I would give season 1 an A+.
No, I would. Yeah,
absolutely love it. This is, there's things I look forward to. Game of Thrones, I even though The Walking Dead is decisive, I look forward to it every year. I would say that I don't enjoy Walking Dead the same way I enjoy this. I enjoy it for different reasons.
Sure.
But this, when as soon as the first season ended, I knew that a second season was coming. I knew based on the buzz. I knew based on everyone talking about it. I knew how well received it was, that I couldn't wait.
And just
for
how well
season
made it
2.
is, and how well realized the showrunners and the Duffer Brothers have on what they have.
How long they can keep this up, I don't know. But
didn't they have rumors that they capped it at 4 seasons?
Out. Yeah. I mean, that's what
I hope more than that.
That's my thing. In and out. Like 2, 3, 4 seasons, maybe 4 might even be stretching it. In and out. Like be
Absolutely.
the cultural phenomenon that you are. Move on. After that, because you can't stay a cultural phenomenon forever,
and then you're going to ruin the property.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this season, I really enjoyed it. It had its moments where I was kind of upset, and I was kind of like, maybe, God, couldn't you just move that up a little bit? Maybe 8 episodes might have done it better. But honestly, an extra hour with these characters, I didn't mind.
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about a little bit, but it didn't bother me, and I thought every single character had a great, most characters, besides what you said, Mike, but it we'll talk about that more in the spoiler section.
Yeah, so
he didn't have as much of an arc as all the other characters did this season, but there's a reason for that.
Spoiler section. Now, let's play that spoiler siren.
Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning. Spoiler warning.
All right, so now we are in our full spoiler section. So if you didn't heed the spoiler warning, you didn't jump off, and you haven't seen Stranger Things season 2, get the fuck off of here. We already gave our score. You know where to find us in all of our places. You don't need to stay out for the outro.
Yeah, watch this show for Christ's sake.
Watch that shit. I know most people listen to this, watched it. There's no reason to really put up a spoiler warning. But so Jay, this season, it kind of started off with a little bit of a whimper. You know what I mean? Like last season started off with the disappearance of Will Byers, which absolutely drew you into the show. What happened to Will? Like, where's Will?
Right.
That's what drew you in right away. I think what drew you into this season was more or less what happened to 11. When's 11 coming back? And, you're still left with Will, and we know that last season ended with him vomiting up that weird little slug thing from his stomach.
It was a good tease.
It was a nice tease. And I really wasn't sure whether we were going to get a real payoff for that, but we wound up getting it.
We did. All right.
But, I think the real draw to the season, what really drew you in, was early on Mike's relationship with 11. They really teased that. They showed what happened to the kids, how the government kind of came into their houses, how they kind of forced them into, into complying with them to stay alive. They forced all the families into compliance and everything like that. And that is a big theme of the season, was Big Brother, is always watching them. It's one of my favorite scenes that had Will, that had Mike in it, was when Mike was being interrogated by the CIA and everything like that, by the government. He's looking out the window and he sees 11. And I think that was like your driving force for it, was like, when are these two characters going to get back together? Because the whole reason we were teasing earlier on that Mike really wasn't Mike, it's because Mike couldn't be Mike again without her. Until she showed up again, Mike couldn't be Mike.
He fell in love, and he never, had somebody like her in his life.
Right. And last season, the driving force for Mike was his best friend Will was gone, but he knew he was alive. He was having this evidence that showed he was alive, and he was willing to fight for it. And same thing with 11. He knows she's alive. He's willing to fight for it, but he also doesn't understand what's happening to her. And he also he's torn because Will right now needs him as well. And there's nothing he can do.
And he's still a kid.
Right.
So he kind of plays second fiddle to Winona Ryder's character, trying to help out Will.
Yeah, he's kind of just like a little helper. He's just kind of there.
And
until
but the
that
thing is,
last
it
episode.
Makes sense, though.
Until that last episode.
Sure.
When he's like, fuck this, dude.
Right.
He's like,
I love that. That was great.
He's like, they're off fucking saving Will, and Hopper and 11 are off, saving the fucking day. Meanwhile, we're left here on the fucking bench. And I love Steve when he's just like, we're not on the bench. He's like, I'm here protecting you and we're staying safe here. And he goes, yeah, what would you call that, Mike? What would you call that, Steve? He's like,
all right,
we're on the bench. But I did love the fact that
he had a great idea. Dangerous idea, but it was still.
But he knew that they didn't stand a chance closing the portal without them making a distraction. So they had a side quest. You know what I mean? Like, and that was a big theme this year. It was video games more so than the RPG tabletop games of Dungeons and Dragons last year. This year was a lot more about arcades. I mean, obviously one of the episodes is called Dig Dug, and we know that Mad Max beat Lucas's score in Dig Dug, and that's what drew the kids to find out who this Mad Max is. And they find out there's a girl that's on par with them in nerddom.
The new girl in town,
but she's also 10 times cooler than they are. She these kids have no business breathing the same air as her. At least that's the way you feel when you're a young kid. Is like,
yeah, I mean, especially in the beginning, it's like, she's damn.
But they did what every kid does when a new girl comes to school. They're like, if we get in with that kid, like if that kid gets in with us, we then get to have the cool new kid in our group, right? And that's exactly what they did. They just went straight for it. They're like, the new kid, get him, bring him to our side, and that's one of the things.
And then every single character has their own different kind of reaction. Like for example, Mike, she's representing 11 to him, and he's just doesn't like that female dynamic because he misses 11.
Yeah,
and he gets upset and tries to push her away. Doesn't want her around.
In his mind, they were 4 boys and 1 girl, and that's diversity. They got a black kid, they got a girl. We don't need 2 girls. And she always tries to justify her position as, I'm a zoomer. Like I zoom around, and he's like, yeah, that's not a thing. Like that's not a thing. Like we had a mage, we have a wizard, we have these classes, these roles, and you don't fit into it. But that's not always the case in life, Like not everyone fits into a role, or people usually fit into multiple roles.
But when you're a boy in that kind of group, and you're a kid, that's what you live and breathe with. That's your roles of life, All
right, so that relation, that character of Mike and his relationship with 11 is extremely powerful. The other flip side of that coin is 11.
Yeah, and let's talk about her.
11. She's just as lost as Mike is
throughout the
entire season.
It was really sad. I mean, to see her, in the cabin, Hopper's trying to take care of her. You understand where he's coming from to, 100%. But later on, that scene, you discover that where she really does need to
scene where they have the argument. Where he's constantly late, right? Like he's clearly. He's a father, but it's like he's forgotten how to be a father. You know what I mean? He's forgotten what it's like to be a responsible adult. He hasn't had to be a responsible adult in a long time. And he also has these, he's clearly a bit on the insane side, right? Like, he's losing his mind a bit. He never keeps track of time. He definitely gets himself lost in his work, and he forgets his other responsibilities in life, which is 11. And just that scene where they're screaming back and forth and, "You are like Papa!" And like, she yells at her and she's slamming doors and he's slamming things around. I love that. I was like, that is probably my future, because I have a young daughter right now. I will.
It probably will. There's going to be a lot of slamming doors around here.
Future. But I still enjoyed, 11, and I liked the payoff. I liked the fact that he's the one that.
It was a journey, man.
Got
The
to
whole
be
season
with her.
was like that. The whole season was like that, because she runs away at some point.
Right. Goes home to mama,
which is completely understandable, because he got caught up in the hospital.
That's right. We learn more about 11's mom. We know that it is true. She is Jane. That was like a thing that may or may not be true last year.
Yeah, that was a good scene. I like that sequence. It had a lot of clarity for you for 11's character, and going into that. What is that called again? The sequence when she gets blindfolded. I love that dark
sensory deprivation is what she does. I mean.
But I love
the
that
static
look.
and the darkness, and
I love that look.
Usually, laying in the water like she did in the first season is how you obtain that. You completely deaden all senses and stuff to achieve that type of astral projection of yourself, like Doctor Strange and stuff like that.
Right.
I enjoyed most of that stuff.
Just for me visually, I just like the way it looks mostly. I mean, other than the payoff, because it doesn't always pay off as well as you want it to.
Right. And then, of course, we have to see 11 grow. We do know that based on the prologue to the series, I mean, that's what I'm calling it, where we are introduced to 8, who is the sister of 11.
Yeah, episode 7.
Which is interesting. No, I mean, we're introduced to 8 in episode 1. The first 5 minutes
I'm sorry, yes.
is all about 8, is 8. But it's interesting when you think about that for what's to come in season 3 or 4 and stuff like that. We have 11 and we have 8, which means
there's possibly others out there.
Right. 9 and 10 are
and
out
I
there.
think we might still get 8 back again at some point.
I think we 100% will.
Yeah.
But we do find out that 11 has her sister. She goes and visits her sister in Chicago because she's rebelling against Hopper and his rules. She believes everything she's ever been told is a lie.
But she also thinks that her mother wants her to find her.
Right, exactly. And she does find her mother and finds that there's nothing there for her. So she goes to find her sister, who she learns about through her mother, in Chicago. And her sister is older, much older, probably about 5-6 years older.
And as she says, she was in her place at that age at that time.
Right, exactly. But she's gone in the opposite direction, where she found friends who fed into the weaponized nature of what she is. 11 has friends that just like her for her, that just want to be friends with her.
More of a genuine family environment.
And she
not such a hostile environment.
Right. She learns that through 8 that, this is not where I belong. And she leaves.
This is not
8.
her path.
She leaves 8 and her gang and she goes back home to save the day. And God, that scene was amazing when the demi-dogs, demi-dogs obviously, Will throws up the slug, which becomes Newt, which is which becomes Dart, which is a tiny little like lizard amphibian type creature that eventually grows up into a demi-dog, which is the precursor to a demigorgon, which was the main villain last year. We have dozens of demigorgons this season. And that was one of the things that I liked. I liked that tie-in to last season where, our teaser from last season pays off now. So the house is under attack and the demi-dogs are all outside and you can hear the demi-dogs. You've learned their sound. You know what they are. You know what's coming for our main characters. And you just hear some loud thumps and slams outside. And I looked at Lauren and I told her, I was like, 11's here. She's here to help. And the demi-dog comes flying through the window and it's dead. And I was like, fuck yeah. Here she is. She's back, baby. And I absolutely love that. So for me, there's really only, we've talked about Hopper. We've talked about, Mrs. Byers, Jonathan, Nancy. We've talked about a lot, but there's one relationship in the show that I really liked. And I thought it was My absolute favorite, and I hope it continues. I love Steve and Dustin. I love Steve and Dustin together. Like, that was absolutely my favorite thing.
You know what the best part about
when Dustin recruits him, he's like, "You still got your baseball bat?" And he's like, "What?" And he opens up his trunk and he pulls it out and he's like, "He still got it." I loved it.
But you know what the funny, like the fact that they added in the railroad talk that he actually told Dustin how to do the hair, and they brought it back at the very final episode. You know, that Dustin does his hair just like him. Just those little nuances is just complete character development.
It was,
and also just relationship development between these two characters, because they're both lovable. And nobody thought that they were going to like Steve as much as they did after the season 1, and then even more so in season 2.
You know what I love about this show is that it is John Hughes meets Stephen King.
In all the right ways. In all the right ways.
And just the Dustin and Steve relationship. He even sums it up when he talks to Nancy, and he's like, "Nancy, I get it. Look, I wasn't a good boyfriend, but I'm a damn good babysitter."
and
he likes these kids.
And you know how, and you see, and Nancy, you know how Nancy always is. She doesn't have the words to like express her feelings completely, because she has mixed feelings, and she's trying to like talk her way kind of back into the relationship, or maybe not so much that, but maybe just like trying to like
she's
apologize.
Afraid to hurt him. She's afraid to hurt him.
Exactly. She's playing a Jay Short card, and and he's just like, "Nancy, I get it. It's okay." You know, and they part ways, and he understands exactly what she's going through, and
I like the ambiguity at the end that we don't know.
She
just shares a smile with Jonathan. We don't know that she's with Jonathan. And I even told Lauren I would love it if Nancy just got to be Nancy for a little while. Not pining over Steve, not pining over Jonathan.
And her and Johnny Boy banged it. They banged out.
So, I mean, I love the season. I loved seeing 11's growth. I love seeing all the kids grow up. I loved their little moments. They all had. And I got
really emotional with 11's final closing of the portal.
Oh my god, yeah. That was
beautiful.
It made me cry a few times, but I think the time that made me cry the most was when 11 walked through the door and Mike saw her. You know, that made me cry.
Yeah, that too.
Brought me to tears. But then Mike and Hopper going off, and when he's like, "She's been around for 353 days."
And he pulls him into the room, and he's laying it on him. Like
laying it on him, dude.
I mean,
hits
for
him
a while
stomach,
too. Like he's getting at him, and those two guys did a great job
and
together.
Hopper's like, "I get it. Stop. I get it. I understand you're upset." And it's like,
and he knows that's why he pulled him to the side into the room, because he knew what he was about to do and what he needed to do to get it out of his system. And then for them to kind of just, you know, accept the fact that it is what it is, move on. You know,
Jay, we loved the characters are what drive you through it. We know we loved all the characters. We know we loved the story. But let's get into my favorite part of this show, the small references that I find. Now, I'll be honest with you, there's probably a dozen or so that I am missing here, but let's go through a few of them. Ghostbuster references all over the place. Obviously the costumes, but that's not it. At one point, Hopper goes up to one of the trees that is infected by the Upside Down, and he touches it, and the slime gets stuck to his fingers, and he's doing this flicking thing with his hand. He's trying to get it off. It was definitely reminiscent of Venkman with the slime in the library.
Yeah.
Egon, mucus. Will finds Dart, and when Will finds Dart, it's a lot. Like, Will is in the bathroom, and he sees Dart, and he holds the walkie-talkie up, and he goes, "He's right here. He's looking at me." I was like, Venkman. He's right here, Ray. He slimed me.
And you know, that's all Duffer Brothers stuff. You know, they do such a good job. They're so nostalgic of this era, and like they have such a great reality.
John Hughes
of it.
Meeting Stephen King. It's also
beautiful.
that stuff with all the best 80s references for movie geeks like us. Now, there is a part later on when Dart sprouts legs, and at that point when he runs out, there is in the music there is a faint dun 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 dun, which is the theme from Gremlins, but it's in the music. It's hidden in there. It's like little notes that are very evocative of the Gremlins theme. Obviously, 1984 Terminator is playing at the movie theater there. When the government comes in to burn the roots and rescue Hopper, Hopper leaves his hat behind and then comes back.
Just like Indy.
To grab his hat.
Couple times,
right. Which 1984, which is when the show takes place, same year Temple of Doom comes out. In my mind, especially in a lot of scenes where Joyce is in the hospital being interviewed by doctors and stuff like that, she's seeming an awful lot like Sarah Connor, protecting her child. Scene with Jonathan Byers and Nancy playing the relationship dynamic over and over again was a lot like that scene in Temple of Doom also. So there's a point where they're both going back and forth inside of the reporter's room, inside the reporter's, basement room. And they're like, he's going to come over. She's going to come over. Like that is Temple of Doom with Willie and Indy. Like they go back and forth like that.
Yeah.
Dart, obviously Dart being a baby Demogorgon is like Gizmo in Gremlins. He can sprout legs and become a gremlin, become something evil, become something destructive. The fog all over the ground, especially in that junkyard scene when the fog is kind of rolling in.
That's pretty cool.
And the creatures come out of the mist, Stephen King. When the Demogorgons attack Steve, there is one who's showing itself to him, but the other two, you didn't even know were there. And they come from the side.
Right.
Seemed a lot like Jurassic Park to me. A lot of the scenes in the tunnels with the Demogorgons, and especially in the scientific facility, reminded me a lot of Aliens. I felt like because of Paul Reiser's presence,
that's a good point.
They were paying homage to that.
You gotta say, like the cinematography in the show is absolutely gorgeous.
Oh yeah,
the production values and like
CGI a little wonky at times. I'll be honest.
But you just overlook that. Like that's okay.
This is something that's a comic book reference. 8 reminds me a lot of Calypso, which is the leader of the Morlocks in the X-Men, kind of like the powerful leader of the underground, of the unwanted, of the shunned. That it might be a reference that's there, but it's a reference that I'm picking up on. All of Will's drawings, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, right? That premonition, right? That building
really fast
of
drawing.
The mountain over and over again.
Yeah.
11 going through Sith training, pretty much the opposite of Luke. She's going through Sith training. She meets her Yoda
and slowly progresses into a badass looking girl. AKA superhero for me.
There's a moment where Bob is in the scientific facility from last season. The power goes out and he has to go reset the breakers and then completely reboot the system.
Many movies.
Jurassic Park. Come on. Sure. He has to be talked through the radio, how to do it, reset the breakers, bring back everything. And then Paul Reiser turning out to be a good guy, like we teased earlier, is a play on the expectation.
You don't know.
He sides
I think it's
more
still a
on
little
the
bit.
he sides more on the side of good than Matthew Modine's character of Papa.
Oh
last year.
well, 100% for sure.
I think he genuinely does not want to do harm in the name of science, whereas Matthew Modine's character saw that.
I think he just knows the necessity for secrecy for the things that he's studying.
But what did Matthew Modine's character do to keep secrecy last season? He just fucking indiscriminately killed people. People died.
Right, and
Where Paul
he's not
Reiser
that kind of person. He's just a straight up scientist.
And he's also willing to make caveats and deals before he threatens death, because he tells everyone, you know what the end result is, right? Like, I mean, come on, go along with me, help me. But we still will not see the result of Nancy and Jonathan's leak to the press until next season. They leaked all this information.
Well, they show that the place is shut down.
Right, but
you don't know what the aftermath from the consequences
from that.
They didn't really show much at all. I was a little surprised by that. They didn't show anything. And that was a little surprising. I think that's going to be a big part of season 3 is also that. And where that, because it's, of course, there's going to be another facility that's going to open up. But as far as what was disclosed to the public and what was published and how the world reacted to it, and then this new facility, like what's going to happen with that?
And finally, my last reference is my favorite. Steve and Dustin on the railway, just talking, is definitely an homage to Stand By Me. Just when they're walking along the train tracks, leaving the meat for
it's great
for Dart to follow. It's definitely Stand By Me. It's definitely meant to invoke that. My favorite character, think other than Hopper, might be Steve. Love him.
Yeah, he just, gosh, he did a hell of a job this season. I'm telling you, it was just so enjoyable through and through, from every different kind of setting, interaction with all the characters, his interaction with his high school foe Bobby.
But I also love the fact that he was the one that wanted to stay out of trouble, like any sane person would do. Yeah. He did not want to run into
He's the sane, honorable kid,
right?
And he, in the beginning of season 1, was just the douchey kind of rich boy.
Yeah, we didn't talk about Bobby much.
I think he's a more
interesting character next season.
It's either they underwrote him for whatever reason, or they're just kind of teasing him for season 2 season 3.
He was our Steve this year. He was our human
he
villain.
was way more villainesque, I think, than Steve was.
Because it's season 2, bigger, better, bolder. Like that's what you did. Well, so you amp up your.
We'll
Steve.
see. And I thought the actor is.
But I did
very talented, and he has an interesting look. And
I did love his taunting.
They play it up. It's fun.
Loved his taunting of Steve. All the time.
Good.
Like, show me that king that everyone keeps telling me about.
I liked it too.
And I did love the scene where he comes into Mrs. Wheeler's house, and
I love that. I love that sequence.
She was just reading a romance book with a character on the cover that looked exactly like him. And when you find out on the after show that you can watch on Netflix. After the season's done, you can watch an after show. They actually CGI'd his mullet onto the front cover of that book.
That's funny.
So that way it looked exactly like him.
Yeah, that was good.
All right, Jay, the final scene we get is the 1984 snowball. All the characters are back together. They're at a school dance. Lucas shares his first kiss with Mad Max.
Yep.
Steve drops Dusty off. And Dusty has done his hair exactly like Steve has done. He's trying to hit on girls. And Nancy kind of swoops in and saves the day for him.
Yeah.
Making other girls jealous of him. I
was really impressed with the show.
I love the way they wrapped it up.
Fall into that
right
cliche of like Dustin finding some girl.
No.
And I really loved it. And I thought it was really great.
A payoff to season 1. The girl that was crying at Will's funeral was the girl that came up and asked him to dance. Something that me and Laura noticed. It's like, man, wait till we tell Will that so-and-so cried at his funeral. That's the girl that comes up and asks Zombie Boy to dance, which is pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
And then obviously we get the big payoff for Mike dancing and kissing 11. But we are left with our tease for season 2. The Mind Flyer is still out there. They may have closed the gate, and but
he's right there, looming, waiting to
on the upside down.
Yeah.
And I love the way
right
it
over the
pans
town.
out
It was
from
really
the snowball, and everything turns.
It was a great shot,
upside down, and then there he is, the Mind Flyer, right over top.
I don't think that's his name, but
that's what they called him, the Mind Flyer. Yeah,
is it?
I thought it was going to be the Thessal Hydra. That's what I said on our show previously. He was going to be called the Thessal Hydra because that's something they teased in season 1 that was more powerful than a Demogorgon. However, they called him the Mind Flyer. It is something that invades the minds of others from another world. It's so ancient that it doesn't know what it is, but it knows that it's superior and it wants to destroy other worlds and bring his world to it. So.
Right.
For that reason they called it the Mind Flyer. They didn't actually give it a name, like where the Demogorgon had a name in like the first 2 episodes last season. The Mind Flyer didn't get its name until episode 8. So that's it. That's gonna do it for me and Jay tonight, man. We talked about Stranger Things as much as possible. If you want to talk about Stranger Things season 2 or anything else that me and Jay talked about, any of our news stories, our indie corner, you want to talk about Major League for Christ's sakes, feel free.
Oh God, yeah.
Reach out to us at Super Movie Pod on Twitter, and be sure, if you haven't listened to episode 68 for our top top 5 zombie films. Make sure to go ahead and listen to that, and then send all of your hate to @JDShort009 on there. And of course, we are part of the Podfix Network. We're very proud of the network that we're part of, and we're very proud of the shows that are also on this network. So be sure to go to www.podfixnetwork.com and check out all of the shows that are part of the network. I want to thank everybody for listening. Thank you for hanging out with us. Thank you for talking.
Guys.
This is a little bit of an extra long episode since last week was short. Have a great night. Cheers.
Cheers.